I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave me. It hurts, and I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. And I'm too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party, the way I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean, and I do my little turn on the catwalk, yeah, on the catwalk, yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk.
Welcome to vlog 30. Oh my god, I'm so old. I love my 30s. What are you talking about? I turned 30 in 2012, the year of the Olympics in London. And to celebrate my birthday, I put on my own production of a play that I written and starred in at the Tristan Bates in Covent Garden. It was basically a way to tick off that bucket list of saying that I had written, starred, produced, and was in my own show in the West End. Technically I was, and honestly it was an incredible experience, and it does give me respect and insight to anybody who writes their own stuff, which I continue to advocate and support. And looking back, I love turning 30. I think for me it was about accepting who I am and what I want, and just not giving a shit. On Monday afternoon, I was at the Sing Easy space at the Piano Works West End to chat to Aaron Jenson and Keisha Mowchenko, who are both in a new production called No Limits. No Limits is a brand new song cycle that will be part of the Camden Fringe Festival later this month in August. Unfortunately, I'll be in Edinburgh, so I won't be able to catch it. But here is what the guys had to say about it.
It's called No Limits.
No Limits.
It was originally written as a song cycle, which I believe it still is, as far as Sam Thomas is concerned. Sorry, the writer. But the director of Red J has taken it on and he's kind of turned it into a piece with the story.
Okay. So when was it originally written? Do you know?
Oh, I don't actually know. I think he's been working on it for
a long time. Yeah, this feels like he has done a lot of projects before. He's quite an avid writer. He just puts out material like
and have
crazy.
you worked with him before, either of you?
We haven't, no. Most of our cast went to school with him, so
Right.
they've all done other of his shows and seen his other work,
and then they got you involved. So
Yeah.
how's that been? Have they taken you in?
Oh, definitely.
Or
Yeah.
just like them
part of the hashtag group now.
Yeah, I guess so.
How many's in the cast?
So there's 6 in the cast. Then we've got director, assistant director, and the MD, and the writer.
Later that afternoon, I went across to Above the Stag to interview Joe Lever and Guy Hughes about their new piece, The Lost Musical Works of Willy Shakes. This is a brilliant show. I've known Joe for a long time and he has done several shows Above the Stag. But this is a brand new show that the pair of them have devised to take to Edinburgh Fringe. And on Monday night they were presenting a special preview to a sold out audience. And it was brilliant. It is so funny, so clever, and so stagey. I was in my element. Here is what the boys had to say about the show.
It's called The Lost Musical Works of Willy Shakes.
Ooh, that's a long title.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we were actually advised that long titles are in at the moment. So we thought we'd add to the plethora of
for
long
example,
titles.
like Hamilton, Wicked,
Matilda.
Matilda.
Yeah. So for musicals, it seems to be
Yeah,
the done thing.
I think you're onto a winner there.
Thanks very much.
Tell me more about it. How would you describe it?
I've sort of been describing it as a sort of musical review show. It's sort of, in terms of the content, it's songs followed by text interaction, a bit of double act between the two of us. But it has also got a sort of loose, actually quite a firm storyline.
So you imagine if Shakespeare had his muse, the fair youth, which we know about from some of the sonnets, that he had this man who inspired him, but we imagined that they had quite a kind of camp little relationship, and Shakespeare was actually a musician who wanted to jazz up all of his plays with musical numbers because he was afraid of being forgotten. And so we have one night where they create all these musical numbers for all these famous plays.
If you get a chance and you're going to be in Edinburgh, make sure you go and see this show because it is superb. On Tuesday, after a long day filming it in the rain, I managed to make it just in time to catch Molly Lynch in her one-woman show, Rodgers and Hammerstein and Me Too. Now, if you saw the interview I did with Molly last week, you'll know all about this show, which is a verbatim piece using real audio clips from people like Trump, Jimmy Savile, all these interesting stories that started and ignited the Me Too movement. Now, what Molly Lynch has done is pieced these stories cleverly to Rodgers and Hammerstein music. It sounds a bit off the wall, and at times was slightly uncomfortable when you're listening to Molly either recite or play these actual quotes by these people. Like I say, we've all read the headlines and read about these stories, but to have them presented to you in this way really brings them home, and I think Molly has done a superb job of putting this show together with help from her incredible director Ed Gogan. The space was incredible. The show was presented upstairs at the Bread and Roses Theatre in Clapham, which is quite a small venue, and what they've done is managed to cleverly fit a runway stage between 4 or 5 seating banks, so that Molly was really able to kind of explore the room. And her stamina is incredible. She delivered 12 classic Rodgers and Hammerstein songs, as well as costume changes, as well as changing into different characters with different accents. She is brilliant. Whether you saw her when she went on in Sunset Boulevard or Carousel, or most recently in The Light in the Piazza, Molly Lynch is an incredible, incredible performer. And what I didn't realise until afterwards when we got chatting and I met her boyfriend was that I'd actually seen Molly in Panto in Ireland 8 years ago. I didn't even realise. She is a superstar. This show was only on for a week, but I hope something more comes of it because it's a brilliant show and a brilliant showcase for her. On Wednesday, I was at the Vaults Festival to see Games for Lovers, a new play by Ryan Craig. So here's an interesting fact. Ryan Craig mentored me during a playwriting course at the National Theatre, where he had successfully had 2 plays before. He has since had work done at the Hampstead Theatre, and this is his latest play. And I'll be honest, sorry Ryan, I thought it was terrible. It is a 4-hander which includes Harry Potter star Ivana Lynch, who I worked with on Harry Potter. And what can I say about it? It felt like a bad BBC Three sitcom about 2 couples. The characters were awful, completely unlikable. Not to mention how regressive the female characters had been written. Ryan has literally set time back and it was peppered with cliche millennial references which just felt awkward, as was the banging soundtrack which was used. It sounded like something out of a game show with this awful theme tune played in. Now, the Vaults Festival was where I once saw Hair, and in this production they've used 2 seating banks at either side of the space, which meant that the stage was centered between us. With Ryan's writing, he likes to use short sentences and mainly scenes with only 2 people. He even showed us a writing exercise on the course which involved your 2 characters only asking each other questions. Another exercise he used was each character was only allowed to use 3 words. Bizarrely, he uses both of these techniques in this play. So you literally feel like you're watching this tennis match go between. They even used this technique of throwing a ball at each other, which harks back to drama school where you're encouraged to keep the energy by throwing invisible balls at each other. If I hadn't been stuck on the other side of the stage, I would have left halfway through. They also had what they called love chairs, which were basically 2 rows of sofas in the front row. Now these were charged at a premium to sit on and were mostly empty apart from 1 couple and a single lady. The concept is quite intriguing. He's examining and trying to explore love and relationships over the years and where we are now in this millennial. But I think he just needs to do a bit more research because it really didn't work. Sorry. It's at the Vaults Festival to the 25th of August, so if you do fancy going, grab a friend and grab a love seat. On Thursday afternoon, I finally got to see The View Upstairs. Now this has been open for a couple of weeks and they had their gala and press nights last week. Now for me, this was quite an anticipated play. It's been produced by my friend Jack Maple and has an incredible all-star cast, including Victoria Hamilton-Barrett, Tyrone Huntley, Declan Bennett, Cedric Neal, John Partridge, and Broadway and Smash star Andy Maiatis. Now this show is written by Max Vernon, who's a renowned cabaret artist over in America, and this is his first musical. And unfortunately it does show, if I'm honest. It was created 2 years ago and ran off Broadway, and this is being debuted here in the UK at the Soho Theatre, which is a brilliant theatre for this kind of piece. The show is inspired by the arson attack at the Upstairs Lounge in New Orleans in 1973, which up until 2 years ago when we had the Orlando shootings was the biggest single deadly attack on LGBT community. And what makes it so remarkable is at the time and subsequently, it has always been felt that it's had insufficient media attention. It basically feels like it never happened. 32 people died in this attack and they still have never closed the case or found the perpetrator. It's a very poignant show, like I say. And what Max has done is brought it up to date to try and reflect how the gay rights movement has progressed since 1973 up until now. The story's been updated to take place in 2019. And what Max has done is devised a time travel element within the story that sees Tyrone Huntley's character transported back to 1973 in a way to kind of look back at history and reflect on his own personal self. And to be honest, I am a massive nerd and a massive Star Trek and Doctor Who fan, and I love any story that's about time travel. But if I'm honest, the problem with this is it's not a time travel story. They're just using that as a device. And in a way I felt kind of cheated because the time travel element really wasn't developed well. There are some brilliant characters within this story, but unfortunately they don't feel like they're fully explored. And I'll be honest, with the music, it feels more like a song cycle than a musical. It doesn't really feel like you have that through flow. And I suspect that that is down to the fact that Max has not written a musical before. There are some great songs in this show, but also some that let the show down. So overall, just doesn't really pop. Having said that, the entire cast are incredible. They are first class. And it is exceptional just to hear them and see them sing together. So for that, it's worth every penny. Going back to the story, they try to shoehorn a very rapid love affair, which again isn't given enough time or detail. The closing monologue of this show is very poignant and very, very moving. And like I say, it is an important story to tell because it does serve to remind us not to be complacent. Although as a gay community we have come a long, long way and made incredible progress, there is a long way to go. And like The Inheritance, this show was designed to hold a mirror up to our own community and recognise our own flaws. And it does do that. It's been directed brilliantly by Jonathan O'Boyle, who recently directed The Hair Tour, and has been choreographed by Fabian Aloes, who is currently working on Evita at the Open Air Regent's Park. Both of them do an incredible work with the space and with the cast, and the set does look incredible. The show runs until the 24th of August. On Thursday evening, I was at the press night for Tree at the Young Vic. Now for me, this was a little bit of a contentious show to go and see. If you've been following the media attention around this show, you will know there has been a debate over the writing credits associated with this production, initiated by a statement released by Sarah Henley on behalf of herself and Tori Allen Martin. The pair put across the case that they originated the idea and concept for Tree with Idris Elba. Then, later on in the process, after they'd worked with Idris to develop the piece, they were removed from the project. The project was then taken to Kwame Kwei-Amar, the artistic director of the Young Vic, who credits himself as a co-creator and director of Tree. Now, in a very bold and brave move, Tori and Sarah came forward acknowledging their pain and suffering at being written out of this narrative. To them, they felt cheated that they have received no recognition and effectively been pushed aside. Now, in development projects, sometimes this does happen. Now, I've known Tori for several years and I have got a lot of time for her. She is an incredible person and an incredible creative, as well as a brilliant performer and writer. And I knew that she was developing this idea years ago. The girls have been fighting the Young Vic at their own cost, which has spiralled into legal fees of up to £5,000. After releasing the statement, they appealed to the public by initiating a crowdfunding page to raise money not only to cover their legal fees that they've already incurred, but to start a new project and a new initiative called Burn Bright, which will hopefully protect and assist female writers in the future. Already, they have raised over £15,000 and have received an enormous level of support. Now, like I say, for me it was conflicting to whether to go to see this show. I hugely support Tori and Sarah, and I don't believe that Idris and Kwame have been fair or have responded appropriately in this case. Having said that, Tori and Sarah have done what they needed to do to get closure and to move forward. By starting the Burn Bright initiative, they are hoping to make something good out of this entire situation. And when I look at this production, I have to consider that there are nearly 100 people who have worked hard to make this production happen, including the 13 actors and the 13 creatives that are now associated with it. And out of respect to them, I don't think it's fair to boycott the show. So I went along to watch it and to support them. And this was a bittersweet reality. When I walked into this production, which is an immersive experience that lasts for 90 minutes, I was taken back by what they've created. This is exactly what Tori and Sarah would have wanted to see. This show has turned out how they would have wanted. I imagine that this show has turned out exactly how they would have hoped. And that is sad to reflect on. And that is a shame that they haven't been acknowledged. Back to the show. When you arrive at the Young Vic, you are hit by a wall of sound, as well as noticing that there is a slightly different demographic of audience coming to this show, which is exactly why theatre like this needs to happen, and why Kwame is the perfect choice at this point to be appointed artistic director of the Young Vic. He is bringing in a new generation of audience, which is needed for theatre. And he's creating new theatre which speaks to them. In this immersive piece, led by Sinead Cusack and Alfred Enoch from Harry Potter, they are incredible. The whole piece is a look back at South African history, using a lot of physical theatre, some incredible projections, and an amazing soundscape. The majority of the audience is encouraged to stand around the stage, and when you first go in, you're welcomed onto the stage in what almost feels like a carnival. Then it all starts to settle out. As far as immersive theatre goes, this is an incredible job. And to me, it felt like I was sitting around a campfire listening to stories, listening to people show me the theatre. And it's impossible not to be engrossed by what you're being shown. Like I say, I genuinely thought it was an incredible, incredible show. And it's just a shame that Tori and Sarah won't get the recognition they deserved for their contribution towards it. On Friday, I went along to watch Jade Justin, the newest drag queen on the block, and she is incredible. Having trained at Mount View, her voice is insane. And this was one of her first London shows. Joined on the stage, she had Andy Coxon, Matthew Facchino, Gemma Reveal, and Alice Fern. And they all sounded brilliant. And this was a really, really great show. They had an incredible set list, and Jade assembled a Greek chorus of 5 musical theatre students who, as well as singing backing vocals, sang intros to each act and a few songs themselves. And they were all remarkable. The musical director was Scott Morgan, who I know from a show that he wrote called Geek the Musical. I also managed to catch up with Alice and check out how she's doing since leaving Wicked and since getting married. And she seemed on great form. Here are a few songs from them.
Remember the pub where our fathers went to spend the end of the day. Remember the yard behind the pub where we would run and play. Well, now the pub is a laundromat. High-rise flats goes up so fast. You can't go back, you can't make it last. You gotta take what you got, even when your life isn't nuts. You take aim, take your shot. Sometimes you gotta rewrite the plot. If in my house, I'll be your shelter. Just pay me back with 1,000 kisses. Be my lover, and I'll cover you.
Open your door, I'll be your tenant. Don't got much baggage to lay at your feet, but sweet kisses I've got to spare. I'll be there and I'll cover you. I think they meant it when they said you can buy love. Now I know you can rent it, then at least you are my love. On life, oh my life.
Myself up and I get back in the race. I can't deny it. I ain't gonna quit, but my friends just would not buy it. So mother, brother, Broadway star or wife, I just thank God for the present. That's
Unfortunately, I could only stay for the first half, as I then had to run over to Zédel, where Daniel Downing was presenting his show Almost Home. Almost Home is a cabaret written by Daniel Downing based on the autobiography by Mickey Deans. Now, if you don't know who he is, he was the fifth and final husband of Judy Garland, and in his book are stories about Judy Garland's life and final days. Now, what Daniel has done is taken these stories and presented them alongside reimagined versions of Judy Garland's classic songs throughout her career. And it is brilliant. Daniel Downing is a superstar. I've only ever heard him talk with an Australian accent, but he nailed the American one, and his voice was on form. As well as that, the subject matter was obviously quite howling in places, where he describes the final details of Judy's life. And Daniel was so captivating as this character. It was spectacular. I really hope that more comes of this, because I'd really like to see this show again. In the meantime, Daniel has flown over to Ireland to join the cast of Kinky Boots on tour, having played the role in the West End and in Australia.
Took a seat. He said he hoped he hadn't stepped upon my feet. He asked my name, I held my breath. I couldn't speak because he scared me half to death. Buzz, buzz, buzz went the buzzer. Plop, plop, plop went the wheels. Stop, stop, stop went my heartstrings. As he started to leave, I took hold of his sleeve with my hand. And as if it were planned, he stayed on with me, and it was grand just to stand with his hand holding mine till the end of the line.
On Saturday, I went to Brighton Pride with my mate Drew to watch Kylie Minogue She was incredible from what I can remember, because to be honest, we were drinking all day and I drank a little bit too much. So I barely remember. But here are a couple of clips from Mary Mack, my favourite Scottish drag queen, and the pint-sized Australian artist herself, Miss Kylie Minogue.
The sharpest words wanna cut me down. Got a scent of blood and gonna drown. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look how cause here I come. And I'm marching on to be a drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
I was severely hungover and very, very tired, having slept over in Brighton in a tent. But I managed to get back to London and to Zédel to watch the launch night of the new festival Unplugged at the Crazy Coq. Now this has been produced by Sean McCourt, who has successfully produced West End Live Lounge. Now they have 7 concerts scheduled between the 19th and 24th of August, which include Sharon Sexton and Rob Fowler, Caroline Kay and Simon Gordon. Now unfortunately Caroline was unable to attend the launch party because she had lost her voice, which is a shame because I was really looking forward to seeing her, especially after I interviewed her last week. Also, Simon's writing partner was also absent, which meant that he had to write a brand new song specifically for the evening and sing a cover. Now, oddly, the rest of the lineup for the launch are made up of other people who don't actually have their own shows coming up as part of the series, but are musical theatre stars and singer-songwriters, and they all presented 2 of their own original songs. Now this is a brand new platform for musical theatre stars who also write their own music. Stepping in for Caroline Kay was Joe Kerry, who is a lovely young chap, and the gorgeous Matthew Harvey. Closing the show was Trevor Dean Nicholas and his band Neighbourhood Goliath. Here are a few videos from the evening.
You read the instructions, you follow the signs, you hope you're on your way to getting things right. This ain't no mistakes falling around. You're looking for help, wondering where is it found.
Gotta let it simmer down, gotta stay on top. Her blind and sink, I think her touch might set me off. Don't wanna make it obvious, I'm spinning out. Regain control and get a hold of yourself.
Remember me when I'm gone away. Forget the things I didn't say. Pictures of faces of smiling places are the prices we pay. Our memories scatter out, a merry-go-round of how I felt at the time. This one for the books.
Every song that's played is about you, I swear. From your crooked nose to the smell you put on your clothes. You fall it figured out. Oh, your story never seems to hold up. Now you're gonna scream and shout. I'm gonna take these feelings, that's right. On a typical Monday, drunk night, I got somewhere we can go. Yeah, when nobody else knows. Funny looking life, making money, looking left and right. Make a run for it, running to you from whatever feels right, and then you take a piece of it. Funny how you do what you swear you'll never do. I must be getting older now. Don't you sing for me, sing it for yourself. The words come naturally, so go. Let the world know. I was once electric, but now I've lost my charge. You have drained your life from me with everything you are.
So that's it for this week. I need to remind you that I am going up to Fringe Land next week. If you have a show that you would like me to come and watch, or if you'd even like me to do an interview with you about your show, please do get in touch. I will be there from the 15th to the 25th of August, and I will love to hear from you. In the meantime, see you later.